Let's make this system. It'll be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Oh.
All right, hello and welcome to the Devstream 100 breakdown. So we have a lot of things to talk about, so let's just get started. First of all, we found out that, and this was expected because of just the timetables of everything that's been going on this year, there's no Umbra this year. That cinematic quest is going to be next year sometime, probably in like the first quarter, I would imagine. That was originally slated to be December, but obviously, like, that's not, we all knew. We were all aware that it wasn't coming out in December when they announced it for December. So, unfortunately, we're not getting Umbra this year. Not a big deal. I'm actually not too worried about it. An expected delay. Besides that, though, we did get to see a new Warframe, Korra, who looks like... Just look at her. She looks like a deluxe skin. Like, this is her base form, and she looks like a deluxe skin. She looks amazing. I cannot wait for this, because she looks absolutely fantastic. She's going to have an Exalted Whip. She's going to be able to summon a special Kavat, and apparently she's going to be able to also have a pet Kavat, like, hanging around with her, which is cool. And she's going to be a physical damage type changer, so she's going to be able to change between Impact, Slash, and Puncture, which is kind of interesting, and I wonder how that'll affect her abilities overall. Or if it'll be like a one clear damage type being the best, like, say, for example, maybe Slash. But yeah, I really enjoy her design. It is mind-blowingly good. Like, honestly, damn, I can't wait for that Warframe, because she just looks absolutely fantastic. So that is incredibly exciting, and that was one of the first things we got to. Besides that, we found out there's some operator content coming, which is going to be the melee for the operator that we've seen in some of the trailers, I believe. And some new idols and stuff for the operator so that they're not all just stoically standing flat as a board and with no, like, emotion or personality. So we'll get a little bit of that for the operators, and that stuff's coming. And then a big change that they talked about is bounties. So bounties in Cetus are going to be changed to get a reward per each part. So you know that final bounty stage that has 5 parts? You're going to get a reward from the pool for each part of that. They did say that it is not going to work in that the entire pool is what you get picked from for each part. It'll be like the first 2 parts are only, like, let's say commons and uncommons, and like the third part is like a higher weighting for uncommons maybe, and then the last 2 parts will be everything in the pool. That change by itself means that having a couple things that are like maybe not like the greatest rewards of all time, like say a relic, in that reward table is actually pretty good, because doing that high level bounty is now 4 more rolls than you would have gotten previously. So that is actually incredibly worthwhile, and will be a really, really good thing. Basically, it's going to make it so that lenses are a lot more common for a lot of players, and it's just an improvement. It's just going to make bounties a thing that is massively worth doing, and a very good use of your time, which is awesome, and a thing that I think everyone can get behind pretty universally. So that's fantastic. That was honestly probably the best change that was talked about. Like, definitely confirmed there's no way this can go wrong. Great change, basically. So with that, let's move on to Focus stuff. So Focus is receiving some changes that I am minorly worried about, because some of them involve numbers needing to be quite good, and like the friendliness to a casual player versus like a hardcore player, and there's like all kinds of like back-end number stuff that needs to be really amazing for these changes to go through well. However, I think that they will end up being very good. So first and foremost is having a universal pool. This reduces the cost of Focus by an absolutely tremendous amount. Basically, you're going to have a pool total for everything. So if you're using any tree, the pool that you're building up is universalized. So if you're using Xeneric and you've been using a ton of Xeneric and you have 60, let's see 60 pool built up. If you go to Naruman, you still have that 60 pool available. You don't have to pay for it again there. That is a tremendous reduction in how much you need to spend total for Focus to max out, say, all the trees, and is incredibly, incredibly good. Like, that's a huge improvement. I personally probably would have liked to see pool be removed entirely, but this is honestly like so close to that I can't really have a problem with it. It's a very, very good thing in making Focus just a lot more approachable and good in general. Along with that, they're changing the daily Focus cap from being a soft cap, or from being a hard cap to a soft cap that has some interesting numbers behind it. So with this, The soft cap means that you're not going to stop gaining focus. It means that it's going to be very easy to gain focus at the beginning of a day and much harder later. So if a player, and this is how I envision this working, and like the dream scenario for how this works, a regular casual player who's going to get on for, say, 2 hours. They're going to do sorties, they're going to do a couple other things, and then log off. That person is going to do those things and be experiencing a very high multiplier towards their focus and get their, say, 250k just doing their normal casual stuff very easily. And then once you're up to that point, your multiplier gets like lower and lower and lower until you're getting like very minimal focus for continuing past that. So for, say, someone like me who can play for like 10 hours a day, like fairly often, I will have burned through the majority of the focus I'm going to earn in a day in probably about like my first like hour of my playtime. And then later on, I'll still be getting some stuff for playing. It just won't be like massive, and I'm encouraged to farm like the stuff that I need to get at the beginning of a day that won't take very long. So basically what this does, also they said it would scale with MR to some degree, which is interesting, and I would like to see the numbers behind that. What that can do is really important, because if it can make it, like if the current is 250k, let's say like that's like what you want like a regular player to get, and then like the super hardcore player is getting up to, say, maybe 400k if they go super hard. That is like a really good balance of keeping focus attainable for a regular like casual player, which it should be. So I think if the numbers behind that stuff are good, that will be a tremendously good change to the focus system just in general. It'll be absolutely fantastic. The thing with that, though, is whatever your multiplier is on focus at any given time, that needs to be like super visible to you. Like if you know at like the beginning of a day, whenever you're going to get like the huge bulk of your focus, that you're starting with like, say, like a 40x multiplier on your focus. If you do 2 missions and you come back and you look at it, it should say like, hey, what is it now? It's like 32x, because you did like just like a couple captures or whatever, and there were short missions, and you got like a really decent chunk of your focus there. Like that multiplier needs to be just super visible so that you know like how fast you can earn at any given time, and you know when you're kind of soft capped out, I guess. I think that's going to be a really, really difficult system to balance, but I think it is definitely the right direction for where they seem to be wanting to go with it, and I'm actually really happy they went with that. That was the thing I had not considered in making a soft cap so that you're kind of always getting focused no matter how much you play. It just like has an exponential curve of how difficult it is to get per day. So yeah, that's super cool. We also learned that the Acolytes are returning in December, so for those of you that are looking to get your Argon, looking to get your Maiming, and so on and so forth, those mods are going to be making a return, so probably try and figure out some time in December, if you're really looking to get those, that you can murder some Acolytes. So that'll be an event that I'm sure many, many players are very excited to do and get those mods. And also they talked about, in terms of other long-term things like focus, the login reward system. So they're going to be changing the login reward system to be tracks of rewards. And what that basically means is that after a player has logged in for 50 days, their first 50 days, they then will get a choice among all of the current tracks of the next 50 days that they can go along with the big reward at the end of those 50 days. So with that, you'll do those 50 days and you'll like go the next 50 and get, say, the Zenith, because that's the track that you chose, or you'll get Primed Shred because that's the track that you chose. And what that basically does is if a player sees a specific one of those rewards that they want, or like probably what will happen, they will ask people, hey, what of this is worth getting? What's the cool, good stuff? They will be able to make an informed choice and get things significantly quicker, like the stuff that they actually care about, much, much faster. So basically, if a new player comes to the game and they see, hey, that Sword and Shield, that thing that just came out, the 700-day login reward at current time, that's super dope. I love Swords and Shields. That's awesome. I want that. They can get that in 100 days, which, to be fair, is still a long time, instead of 700, which is a significant reduction and something I'm very okay with. And then potentially after that, if it's working how I think it would work, after those 50 days towards the Zenith or what have you, you would then choose another track, reducing the time between those like awesome rewards by like a fairly significant margin. I don't know if you would have to go like another 50 before choosing another track, or how they would balance that. Ideally, I think it would be like just tracks of 50 that you would choose whenever, and some of those would be cosmetic rewards, which I think would be fine. But yeah, that stuff that seems like a really good way to go with login rewards. That still rewards time investment, but it like makes it so that the player choice is more there, and the things that newer players want they can get sooner, which I think is a good way to go about it. With that, also other content stuff we saw the new Eidolon. So here he is. He's a big boy. He is significantly larger than the current Terrorless, and you can see the Excalibur for scale down by his little dangly arm bit. He's gigantic, and apparently he will be walking around on those big giant blade arms, and also have some like ability to fly or whatnot. So this is interesting, and I wonder how it will work. So with the current Eidolon system, and I'm still working on a guide for it for those wondering, you can do like a really good amount of them per night, and like the current Terrorless, and you can get like a bunch of brilliant shards. I'm wondering how this guy will factor in to like a night of hunting Terrorless. Like, will the first one show up, and then when you defeat that one, this bad boy shows up? Because that would be kind of cool if he's like more difficult and maybe offers 2 brilliant shards instead of 1. I could see that being like really cool, and potentially like an additional stage to fighting Eidolons over the course of a night, which I think would be really interesting. I don't know how it'll go, but that's like some speculation on an awesome way for it to go, I suppose. Yeah, his design is really cool. It's very, very different from the Terrorless we currently have, which is kind of the most exciting thing about it, I suppose. Besides that, we had the Infested Meteor, which landed, which we have this right here. So this hit the planes, and it is going to be starting the new operation. So that is interesting. I am a bit worried about it, I will say, because as cool as that is, some of the stuff it's introducing is maybe not so cool. So that's already on the planes, and it's going to be starting the operation pretty soon. And one of the things that's going to be coming from that is infested Zaws. And while this seems interesting, the Zaw system has some pretty glaring issues in that the Zaws just aren't there. It's a massive investment for very little that you get from it, which is kind of a big problem. And it's also not really modular in the way that I feel like they talked about it pre-launch, in that once you put parts together, there's no way to have like an ungilded Zaw be like, oh, I'm going to swap that out for this blade because this blade's not working, and so on and so forth. And also the need to level like Zaws twice is like very, very boring and bad because of just how like people level things in general. You'll just like use like say a Hydron or like an Adaro farm or something to level a melee weapon. It just makes a lot, like the double leveling is really rough, and like the not being able to switch out parts and try new things like easily is super restrictive. And there's just a lot of problems with Zaws. Well, whereas I think like the event itself will probably be fine, but the Zaw rewards, it will be hard to justify them being worth it, I think. And then last, or nearly last, and probably most importantly, Scott snuck a reduced version of Univac into the Plains of Eidolon update. So for me, I did not notice this because I always have Sentinels equipped at all times. So, shocker, I have actual, like, Vacuum, the big one, equipped at all times, so I didn't notice this. With that, it's baby steps, right? So this is better. There's no argument to be made there, and from what Scott said on the Devstream, it seems like there are devs that are against this, and he literally, like, got a programmer, like one programmer who also knew, and snuck it in for launch. Like, literally did some sneaky beaky to get this change in. That is, like, it kind of says a lot about it, because pretty much most of the player base, let's say, seems to really, really want Vacuum, and I'm super behind that. But this change and the way that it was gone about shows me that I think this is, it's hard to, how do I put this? What Scott did is awesome. I don't think it's enough, because he also still wants there to be a choice in using Sentinels, and I agree with that. My personal thought is that even if it was the full vacuum range, is that you're still going to use Sentinels. Sentinels are still very, very useful, even without vacuum, compared to the other companions. And vacuum is just the only thing that is making them the only choice right now. And there are some more less impactful ways to make them a decision to be made in terms of vacuum range. Like 3 is like basically a fourth of what actual vacuum range is right now. And that is like making it 4 times what the now default is for Univac. That's a massive difference. If this was, say, 8 meters is the universal, and then Sentinels can push that up to like the 11.5, 12 that it is now, that I think would maybe justify more the choice where you do definitely still want a Sentinel in a lot of cases, and that vacuum is still very useful there, but also it is not such a gigantic pain in the ass to be using your adorable cats and dogs. Because the thing about vacuum and the thing about companion choice is I feel like a lot of players don't actually give a single fuck about anything any companion does that isn't vacuum. Like, sure, you've got Helios that can scan things. That's cool. Whatever. That's like a side thing that doesn't relate to core gameplay. Carrier can do ammo mutation. Awesome. There's plenty of ways to get ammo. It's like not like core to the game, and it's not like a huge problem with the game or anything like that. Cats can, like, you can get some crit chance or whatever, but like we don't really have a problem with damage, and that's like a nice side bonus. Sure, cool, whatever. And like some dogs can make you invisible. Some Sentinels can make you invisible. There's all these like little tiny bonuses that are spread all over. But I think the giant thing that the community feels, and that I definitely agree with, is that vacuum makes the game like more fun to play on a basic quality of life level. And making the game be the most fun is usually more important than some minor bonuses that are whatever. And for me personally, the major reason why I want Univac is I'm going to use vacuum no matter what, so my A reason doesn't matter, is that I want vacuum. It makes the game more fun for me. That's a really huge reason that I want it. But B is that DE has put a lot of work into Kavats. They've put a lot of work into Kubros. They're awesome. They are varied. They have like a lot of different things that are cool about them, but I don't get the thing that I think makes the game more fun on a basic controlling a Warframe level, which makes it so that I'm not going to choose that like cool thing. Like, I think the cats are like awesome and adorable, and I got some big fluffy doggos that I would love to have around, and I don't really care what they do as long as I have the vacuum effect. Like my big dog Kubro, it has some like useless thing where it scares off enemies or whatever, and I don't care about that. I want to take the dog with me because it's awesome and it's big and fluffy and I love it. That's the reasoning. I don't actually care about like what its abilities are, because all the abilities that all companions have are irrelevant, because I just want the vacuum one. Like, all the other abilities are like minor things that are like maybe cool in some scenarios but never necessary, whereas vacuum makes the game better on a basic level to me. Sorry for going off on a tangent there. It's very important to me that I get that across in like a concise way. Anyway, and then we also got shown the giant katana weapons that are going to be coming to the game, which are super dope, and this is one of the animations for them. That's a really rad thing. I'm into that. It looks like some Nier Automata business, and I'm 1,000,000% for that. The fans apparently got kind of lost in the confusion of PoE, so the fan weapons are still coming along with this, and this is cool, and I want to use these. Like, more like kind of not heavy blades, basically, I'm into. Maybe with like some more like faster, like more running around stances and stuff. Could be really, really neat. But yeah, that is that's a Devstream breakdown. And here at the end, I want to go see the infested meteor on the plains. Also, thank you for those that just bared with me through me talking about vacuum. I know you guys have heard about it from me a lot. And it's just a really important issue, I think, to me and like a lot of people that play the game at large. And it's important to talk about it because it's just a quality of life improvement for everyone. And honestly, one of the major things I want from DE is like, Scott made it very clear that there are devs that are against it. And what the arguments against it are has not been clarified to the community in any real way. So I think what the community really wants is, hey, maybe like just have those devs say their reasoning to the community. Like, what is the reason? Like, why? Like, we don't have it as like a universal thing. Like, what's holding it back? Because a lot of people, me included, can't come to like a real reason why we don't have it. Anyway, moving on. Let's go check out that meteor. So, oh, it just became day. Grab an Archwing real quick. I already know where it is, because I already went and looked at it. It's kind of neat. Let's go. It is this big bulbousy thing here. So that's interesting. So yeah, I don't really know what this will entail, but it could be pretty neato. It's interesting that it changed like the actual landscape of the plains in like an actually pretty meaningful way. Let's get down here and poke at it. Oh, it's squishy. Yeah, so this is like, it's kind of neat that they're willing to like change the landscape post-launch, and like maybe some big events will happen and interesting things can go on with the plains. But yeah, this is the infested meteor. It must be really squishy to have not, like, actually destroyed the entirety of the plains, considering how big it is. The void magic, I guess. I guess that's just physics. You know, in a void magic world. But yeah. Neat. But yeah, that'll do it for the Devstream breakdown. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Later all.